What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount MoGraph. As always, my name's Matt, and today I am more than I'm normally excited because I'm releasing a new tool for After Effects called Link. This thing is so much fun to play around with. You can control any layer property from any number of layers, as many as you would like, from a single set of keyframes. You can offset, you can delay, you can change tons of colors, all with this really cool little plugin, and you can also link and duplicate pretty much everything. So I am so excited to share this with you guys today. So this little animation, I may as well play something while we're talking, took me about I think this was 4 different keyframes and it's controlling I think 7 or 8 layers. So this literally took me about a minute and a half to put together, actually probably a lot less than that, but this tool has tons and tons of uses, and it's all based on relative data, so you're not locked into any kind of absolute locked positioning. You can still move around and animate like you normally would, but you can use Link to really speed up your workflow, and really it's a keyframe management tool at the end of the day. So anyway, let's jump into it and get on into the installation. So let's go ahead and jump into the installation. I worked really hard to design something that's going to work for you, and it's also really easy to install. I'll do it at the same time as you just to prove how easy it is. I haven't uninstalled everything. So basically, once you download it, you're going to have the zip file. Double click into the zip file. We're going to have a little folder here. Click into there and you're going to see we have 3 files. We have the link v1 JSX-bin, which is the important file, installation text and all that for you to read if you don't want to listen to me talk, and then we also have a license file that you're going to want to hold on to. So let's go ahead and get this installed. I'm going to go ahead and open up my applications folder here. I'll drag it over here, and we're going to go and navigate down to your After Effects folder, your scripts folder, and down to your Script UI folder. This plugin will work on Mac or Windows in any language you want. It supports all languages, so no worries there as long as you can find that folder. We're going to go ahead and just drag this over into our Script UI panels right here, and that is going to be all you're going to have to do. So there are 2 more steps, and I promise it's easy. Basically, if you're a single user on a computer, you're going to by default, I'm going to open up After Effects here. You're going to by default normally be the administrator. However, if you're not, you're going to want to run After Effects as an administrator is what you're going to need to do to get this to install properly, because it has to write some files. So next, let's go ahead and just go up into our After Effects Preferences and General, and we're going to check off this little option here, Allow Scripts to Write Files and Access Network, just so it can write some of the image files that you'll see. So we're going to click that and click OK. 2 more steps here. Let's go to Window, and we're going to go down to Link v1 JSX-bin, click it, and you're going to get a little notification that says Link has now been installed. We'll click OK, and there it is. However, it is not going to work yet, so let's go ahead and close it one more time, close After Effects, and we're just going to restart it, and now it's going to work perfect. So we'll go ahead and just open After Effects one more time, and we are ready to get into using Link and having a lot of fun with it. So we'll just wait for it to start up. I'm going to go to Window and click Link v1, and I'm just going to dock it. I guess I'll dock it right here and maybe make a little bit of room. That looks pretty good. And there we go. So we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and create a new composition. So before we get into the actual cool stuff, I'm going to go over the UI and just basic functionality and how to use Link, and hopefully you can see how much fun you can have with it and how helpful it can be for your projects. So when you first look at it, you're going to have this main screen right here. You're going to have this button right here, and that is called the link button. So once you have your property selected, you can click this and it will link it to your master link layer, which I'll get into in a little bit. You also have these 2 options, which are check boxes. The add keyframe does exactly what you would expect. It's going to add a keyframe to your selected properties at the time you're at, which is helpful when you are really digging into some of the nitty-gritty properties and you don't want to have to refine them to add keyframes. Then you also have this Shy Linked Layers option, which is just helpful for keeping your layer manager nice and organized. I like to keep that on. You're going to have a little switch over here to go to a second screen, which I'll get into a little bit, and then you're going to have these 4 options down at the bottom, which are called hot links, and you can actually turn these on, and you can just select these, and once again, I'll get into what exactly they do, but these will stay turned on between the 2 different screens. And then we also have this little button up here that will take you to mountmograph.com if you would like to go. You never have to click that. And then also a tiny little about blurb that you also never even have to go to. So that is a link in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it does. So what I'm going to do is just draw a real quick here, I'll just make the most basic little box here, and I'll show you a quick little example. So we got a nice blue square. I'm just going to center this up in my viewport here, and anchor point as well. So what this is going to do is you can link any property to any other property. So if we happen to have two objects, we'll just start with the most basic example. I'm going to make this object a bright pink so we can really tell them apart, and I want to make this blue layer the master layer, and I want to make the pink layer the non-master layer. So instead of grabbing properties, we're going to use the hot links to start. So I'm going to click this position one, the scale one, the rotation one, and we'll save opacity for later. That's what the 4 down here do. So I'm going to click these off, and what I'm going to do is just select the layer I want to be the master link first, and then any other layers I want, in our case the pink one, and this can work for as many layers as you want. If you had 70, it would still work. So all you're going to have to do, I'm going to keep these two options checked, and I'm going to click link. So you're going to see it's going to process and also add the keyframes on our timeline, as well as pop the properties up for us so we can see exactly the keyframes we added this stuff to. So you're going to get some controls over here in your effect manager. It's going to tell you the links that you've built for position, scale, rotation, and there's some options that once again we'll cover a little bit down the road in this video. And as you can see, the color has actually changed here on our object. And all we're going to have to do is go into our color controls and actually just click the use color cycle. We're just going to click this off, and we're going to get our normal pink color. So let's see what this does. I'm going to go ahead, scrub forward in the timeline, and just do a quick little animation. I'm going to drag my position over here with my blue object. I'm going to scale this down a little bit, and I'm also going to rotate it 180 degrees, and then I'll just add a quick little ease onto it. So let's go ahead and see what this does. I now have my two objects being controlled from this single set of keyframes, which is pretty cool, and we can obviously push that a lot farther, and I'll show you about that in a little bit. So as you can see, there's almost a delay on this, and that's where some of the power of what link does really comes into play. I'm going to go ahead and check these hot links off right now and show you a little bit more of this control. So as you can see, we have the position links, the scale links, and the rotation links, as well as an option for delay on each of these properties. So let's go ahead and turn our position delay. We're going to turn this up a little bit, and you're going to see that my object is actually going to move as we turn this up or down. So this is literally the delay it would have to our link, our master link object. So I'm going to turn our position up. I'm going to turn our scale to 0. So that's saying it's going to move at the same exact scale as this object. And then I'm going to turn my rotation to like -100. So it actually happens like really early. So let's go ahead. We have our keyframes right here. I'm going to actually move them forward in the timeline a little bit, and I'm just going to hit play, and we're going to check out what happens here. So now I'm having a lot more happen. I'm having my rotation actually start before the keyframes even get there, and before my master layer even moves. So what if we turn that rotation link down even more? So now I'm telling it -675 is the delay setting, and now it's going to actually rotate way before the keyframes. And as you can see with this simple example, Link is pretty powerful with what you can do with this one set of keyframes and these delay options. So another thing that we're going to go over right now is this option to control all. When you click this, it is a master control for all your delays to stay the same if you don't want them to stagger. So I'm going to click this option here, and as you can see, they all snap to 0. So when they're all snapped to 0, I can actually get identical animation of these two objects at the same exact time. So let's go ahead and just turn our delay up to, I don't know, 53 seems good, and we're going to have just the same amount of delay on all of our properties. And if we turn this down to like -230, it's going to happen before our properties, just like this. Well, I kind of messed that up, but as you can see, the playback on this is pretty good, as obviously as you start to get really high up in objects, you're going to run into a couple difficulties, but nothing serious. I promise you can always work with this on your system no matter what you have. So let's go ahead and hop on over to another example. What I'm going to do is show the other screen in the most basic way, and then we'll jump into some cool stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these layers here, and what we're going to do is actually just create another cube, because that's pretty easy for this example. I will actually probably not pick yellow because that's pretty atrocious. So I'm just going to draw a cube here. We'll center this up once again in our composition, center my anchor point just because that's easy. Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll put it in the corner because that's even more fun. So I now have this little object here, and let's say that we just want to do some cool linking, but we don't have another object to work with. Well, that's when we hit this little switch over here and go over to our duplicate and link screen. So as you can see, we have this other button here, and it looks like it's duplicating, and that's exactly what it does. So once again, we don't have to select any other properties. All we're gonna do is select these properties here. So I'm gonna click the position, scale, rotation, and opacity. I promise this does a lot more. We're just covering the basic stuff, so bear with me here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this 8 times, and I'm just going to make sure my layer is selected, and I'm going to click this duplicate button. So we'll click that, and as you can see, it's going to process pretty quick. We get keyframes on our 4 layers that we picked right here in our hot links, and we also get 8 copies of the layer. So let's go ahead and just do a quick little animation, and I promise I won't take too much of your time. As you can see, the color cycle is coming into play, and this is where you can start to have a ton of fun with this new tool. So let's go ahead, add some easing on here, and then I will just copy these keyframes over here just so we have something to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and as you can see, we now have tons of colored squares, all with this delay doing this little animation we just made, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at the color cycle actually. So now that I have all these duplicates, I can actually scrub through this color cycle and pretty much find an infinite combination of colors that will always fit with your scheme. You'll get nice gradients, and you can even get these insane, really cool Technicolor stuff, and you also have a saturation to boost or lower saturation depending on the color you're after. So that is a link in the most basic manner, and I hope you can see how this can be fun and how this can be useful. We're going to go ahead and jump into some of the cooler examples right now. So for this example, I would like to cover a couple other cool little features of linked as we start to get into some of the more advanced things. And what we're going to do with this example is actually show you a little bit of what the delay can do. So let's go ahead and just make a cube of some color. Once again, cubes are the easiest to work with today. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and make another one. I'll draw a cube here. I'll center that anchor point and maybe actually scale this down here. So one of the cool things about Link is if you don't have hot link selected down here, you can go ahead and click this duplicate layer. Let's say we wanted 20 copies. I'm just going to do that and get my 20 copies like that. So if you don't have any properties or hot link selected, you're going to get duplicates. So let's go ahead and just make something like 3. We'll keep it nice and basic. We'll get our 3 duplicates. Drag one down here, grab them, and just get a real quick little alignment. So we now have our objects right here. So let's look at some of the delay and offset features. So I'm going to grab this top one here and try to make it my master control. Hold shift and just click down to the other ones, and let's go ahead and animate our position, rotation, and scale before we get into some of the advanced stuff like I said. So I'm going to click link, and it's going to go ahead and process for us. There we go. It's processed through everything. I'm going to toggle forward in time just a touch and animate a little bit. So I have this, I have the scale changing, and I guess I'll also do the rotation. So we'll just set this to like 90, something real nice and basic, and I will set a little bit of easing. So as you can see, we have our animation. It's all going to follow on the same path. So one of the first things to talk about is how you can change the delay on these specific objects. So if this object down at the bottom, we actually wanted to be in this cluster of group somewhere up here instead of all the way at the back, you can either do this, just grab it and simply move it up in your layer, and you're going to get a difference in the animation, just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and you're going to see that we now have a totally different animation just by changing layer position. And this will always work, which is really nice. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. Now let's look at what is on each of these layers. So you're going to have something, color cycle, that you don't really have to mess with unless you'd like to. And then we also have something called extra delay. So this is when you have your global manager for the delay on your master layer right here. I'm actually going to change the colors so we can see them a little bit better. I'll cycle through some stuff. That looks good. Yeah, you can mess with this as your global, but this will change everything at once. So if for some reason you wanted this green one to actually be really, really slow, the worst kid in the class or something, you can just change the extra delay on that single property and it'll catch up with the rest of them as you need. So maybe this blue one is actually going to be like a star student or something. So we're actually going to put this into the negative and it's going to beat everyone there. So, and then maybe this red one, I will actually go ahead and grab and put this above our first layer. So let's see what we have. With just a couple different switches and one set of keyframes, we're now going to be controlling all these objects at different times in a couple different ways. So I hope you can kind of see how this can be fun. So another thing about this is, I'm going to just reset some of the stuff so it's a little bit easier to see. I made sure that all this code and stuff is based on relative data. So what that means is that you're not going to be limited by this movement. Like this isn't the end all for you. You're still going to be able to do really whatever you want in terms of animation. So I have my keyframes that affect all the objects just like this. But let's say when they end, I actually want to animate this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my position properties and come over here, and I can actually still move them just fine and animate just like I normally would. But you're still going to be able to affect it with your original object. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this back and let's go ahead and check out what happens. So we're now going to still have all these changes happening, but our animation is still able to be made with our original keyframes. That was a mess of a sentence, but I hope you can kind of see what you can do. You can have your main animation affecting all of this stuff and still get the ability to change your object's animation with their own keyframes. So you're not ever going to be locked into just using like absolute data or anything like that, because that's just no fun. So let's go ahead and actually jump to a cooler example, because I just messed up that sentence pretty bad and I don't think anyone's happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you another cool little feature of Link. So let's go ahead and create a stroke layer. I'm just going to do something like I guess orange is the color of the day. And what I'm going to do is just draw a really nice line. And by nice line, I mean something that looks like a worm or like this. So now that I have this object, I'm going to go ahead and just hold command and click and twirl down. And as you can see, there's a lot of properties, but I want to add a couple other ones. So I'm going to click this add button and I want to add the trim path option. So I'm going to hold command and click that down as well. And let's look at this option here. We're going to make our cap a round cap and we're going to make our join a round join just because. So let's go ahead and hold command and click your stroke width. We're going to hold command and click our start, our end, and our offset. And that should actually be good. So let's go ahead and just come up to our duplicate screen, and we're going to make sure none of our hot links are selected, and we're going to make 5 copies of this object. So I'm just going to click the duplicate option. It's going to think for a second and make those keyframes for us. As you can see, that's pretty handy, so we don't have to deal with digging through all this stuff. And let's see what has happened. So now this is one of the advanced features where you can grab any property and add your delay, offset, and link it to a single set of keyframes. And this can be for any kind of object as well. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and change the end on this, maybe change my offset as well to something, I don't know, there's no plan for this. And then I'll change my stroke width up, I guess, and maybe change this end feature. So let's go ahead, we'll add some easing. And I'm going to change my color controls here a little bit so we can really see what's happening. And why don't I also turn on my global delay and really crank that up just so we can really see how that can affect our objects. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play and let's see what we've made in just a couple seconds. So now we kind of have this like pipe worm looking thing. Pretty weird animation, but you can definitely start to have a lot of fun with this. So let's look at the relative data. So if I took these objects and just held shift and like brought them down a little bit like this and move the position, we'll see if we can get a cool animation out of this. And we'll just stagger all this stuff a little bit. So we now have this kind of crazy rainbow. And even though I've moved all these layers, you're going to see that they're still affected with the same keyframe properties and values as if we had really taken the time to do each of those individual layers. So that is just another quick example of grabbing your layer properties. And let's go ahead and jump one more time into some even cooler stuff. So another really cool thing about Link is you're not limited to a specific file type. As you can see, I have a couple different properties here, including text, including a composition, which has an Illustrator file, a Photoshop file, and also some shape layers. So I'm going to make all of them linked to whatever this guy is doing. So I'm going to grab this first square all the way from the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and link the I guess I'll just link these hot links here because that's pretty easy. So I'm going to grab those layers and just click the link button, wait a second, and it's going to think, and there we go. After a little bit of thought, we have our keyframes, and as you can see, the colors have actually changed on our objects because the color cycle is on. So we can just come over here into our manager right here and turn our color cycle off. So I'm going to click use color cycle. I'll just turn that guy off, and let's go ahead and actually one thing I forgot to talk about is you can actually, even if it's linked, you can still change the colors. So if I had this green object and I want to change it to bright pink, that's all well and good, so I can do that and not have to worry about it. If I have the use color cycle turned on, all the colors will be affected, but I can actually change my original color and the other objects will be changed as well. So I'm going to change that to a green. Well, actually that won't work because this is a stroke, but let me give it a path here. And we'll toggle through it, and now you can see that the colors are changing, even though I've changed my original fill color. Sorry about that, that was a poor example, but I'll just change that, and as you can see, the colors also get that change, but we're not going to use the color cycle for this example. So remember I talked about the shy linked layers. So as you can see, all the layers that are linked have the shy switch turned on, so I can just click this and only have to worry about my single master link layer. So I'm going to go ahead, drag these keyframes back, and just do a quick little animation and take a look at how all these objects can work together, and how you can have a lot of fun just animating like this. It makes things like so easy to work with and so easy to do, and I've had a lot of fun doing it, so I would love to hear what you guys think if you get around to trying it out. So I'm going to go ahead and actually untoggle these shy switches and maybe also add a little bit of animation to these keyframes. So I'll just do some position properties, go forward in time, and I can move this here, spin it, maybe move that there, and we now have this crazy complex animation with delay and all that from a couple different properties. So obviously that wasn't a good animation, that was just to show you it'll work for pretty much anything. So for this example, we're once again going to take a look at how it can work on pretty much any object. I'm going to go ahead and create a text layer. Let's just go with something, I'm going to go with link, I guess, because that's pretty easy. So I'll grab this and maybe change the color to let's call it a kind of mustard yellow. Change my anchor point here, and actually I'm going to scale this up. So Link will work on anything, and that's the cool thing, and you can actually make some really fun little retro designs. So if I grab this object right here, I'm going to go ahead and just go over to my duplicate, because I want to duplicate this a whole bunch. I'm going to set my duplicate amount to, let's call it 25. We can get it a little bit crazy, and I'm going to set it on my position only, or I could toggle down here and just select any properties I want, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's selected and click the duplicate and link button. We're going to get some keyframes and all that right here. And as you can see, all these layers are shied, so I'm going to go ahead and click the shy switch. We'll go forward in time, and I'm going to drag this over. And now we're going to have this crazy color palette popping up, because it can link and change any of our properties just like that. So as you can see, we can't really make out the front text. So if I go down into my color cycle, and my seed amount, I'm going to just go change this until I can see it better, or maybe get a nice gradient. It's really just drag it until you see something you like, which is always fun, or you can change the initial color. So there we go, we have that little bit of a gradient, and that looks kind of nice. I'm going to go here and just select all my layers, right click layer styles, and go to, let's go with a drop shadow on them. So now that I've added a drop shadow, obviously it's going to be a little bit heavier on the system. And so now when I scrub, it's not going to be the same kind of playback, because now I'm starting to just stack tons of effects on it. So instead of knocking down the resolution, we actually have this really cool option with Linked called Hide Linked Layers. So if I click this, you're going to notice all the linked layers disappear, and now I can scrub back in real time, and that's how you can work with your animation and making sure you're happy with it, and then you can go ahead and re-show them and make sure they're linked to the proper movement, and then go ahead and adjust things like your delay. As you can see, it can start to get a little bit heavy, but you're always going to be able to work through it if you can just hide the linked layer and just deal with it like that. So let's go ahead and jump to one more example, and I promise I'll stop talking. So for this last example, it's probably a stupid example, because I'm going to show you that you can indeed work with tons and tons of layers if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead. I had this little drawing, and I think it's somewhere around 70 layers. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick little build on effect. So if I grab all these properties, I'm just going to grab, I guess, this back one over here, and I'll scroll up to the top, and I'm going to link everything to that. So why don't I just link the scale property right here. So I'm going to click scale. You can also toggle down and grab any other property you want, colors, paths, anything you add to it. No problem at all. So let me go ahead and just click link, and it's going to obviously take a second to think through this, but I promise, this is a stupid amount of layers and a stupid amount of calculations, but it's going to be able to handle anything you throw at. So yeah, I've had a ton of fun working with it. I've already used it on tons of projects, and actually I promise I'll be putting up some really cool little projects you can do with this thing that saves tons and tons of time. So there we go. It's just processing up to the last couple here, and there we go. We're all linked up as soon as these layers change color, or this little thinking thing goes away. 1 second here. Looks like it's still thinking. Like I said, 70 layers is no joke, but there we go. So we have some crazy colors. It looks like it's basically done thinking. It still might be going. Looks like he's just not quite done. So I'll let it chug away a second. There we go. So it's linked everything up for us. It's found all the important properties we need, and all these layers are linked. As you can see, the color change kind of indicates that, because it's also has that color cycle on. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this off so we can go back to our original colors. And I'm going to click this shy option just so we can only focus on our single layer. So like I said, let's make use of our hide linked, because right now I can't really see what's happening, and I have all these layers. So what I'm going to do is just click the hide linked button, and there we go. This is the only object we have to worry about to animate this. I'm going to go ahead and pull that keyframe there. I'm going to unconstrain my proportions, and I'm just going to turn my Y property down to 0. So let's go ahead, check this out. There's our little playback there. It's kind of slow, so we'll add some easing, a little bit of a snap, and let's check that out. So we have, here we go, set my work area. We'll do a quick little playback here. There's our little animation. So the cool thing about Link is all these keyframes you can still add properties to. So I'm going to add the excite function from the motion script, and then I'm going to go ahead and just toggle forward in time, and let's take a quick little preview. This is showing back in full resolution 1080, so obviously it's going to be a little bit heavy. So I have this nice little bounce on this object, and actually I think I like it. So let's go ahead and see how that looks with the rest of our animation. So I'm going to go ahead and actually unclick this hide linked option, and in about 2 seconds we're going to see there is our entire animation. So if I scrub back in time, you're going to see that every single object is actually animated now, but we're using the option where all those layers are actually stacked on top of this. So what I'm going to want to do is change my global delay, so that object in the back comes up first. So I'm going to click my Control Alt option, and then what I'm going to do is actually toggle this stuff into the negative. So I'm going to keep going backwards until I find something I like. So negative, let's go with like -26 look good. I can see all the stuff coming on. So let's go ahead and we'll just do a quick preview. Like I said, this is in full resolution, 75 something layers from 2 keyframes and a ton of bit of code, but it really does process pretty quick. And for what it's doing, I think that's pretty dang cool. So here we are, we got our little build still happening. Everything has the same expression on it, but you get a ton of delay, and it's a really fast way to kind of do little builds that look really nice. So let's go ahead and take a preview in real time. So there we go. That was from a single set of keyframes, just the one. I could go back through here and grab all these properties and just like this, toggle down to my first one. And maybe scroll up and grab this one. And if I wanted to link now rotation, I'll just click the rotation hot link and click that, or I could toggle down and grab the properties and it'll re-add it to your master global control. So anyway, that was just the basic overview and introduction to Link version 1. I've got a lot of cool stuff planned for this. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Check it out at mountmograph.com if you'd like, and $5 off coupon until the end of February, so check that out. The code is in the video description. Thanks again for checking out Mount Mograph and supporting the channel. You guys rock. Get your learn on, and yeah, that's about it. Peace out.